Sarojit, what was discussed yesterday? I missed it. I
So,
missed the class.
sorry, hello.
What was discussed yesterday? I just want to know. I missed the class actually yesterday, so
We talked about triggers.
I
We
just
started
wanted to
talking
know.
about
Someone
triggers.
can read. Oh, okay. Important concept.
Right. So today we are going to talk about a few more context variables that we use in trigger.
Do you want to first do the custom button on Visual Force?
No, we'll finish trigger and then go
Okay,
to
I'll
custom
do.
button.
Okay, because you told me to remind you.
Yeah. So we'll finish trigger and then we'll go into that. So
ठीक है जी.
we have talked about context variable. I don't know. I'm getting your voices very low. Let me check once. Now it's fine, I guess. So we saw one context variable called trigger.new, right? Trigger.new, and we saw how do we use it. Now there are a few more context variables which return true or false. These are trigger.isInsert. Okay, so now this will return true if it's an insert trigger. I mean, because if the trigger has got executed due to an insert operation. Same way we have Ashwin, any problems? So same way we have trigger dot is insert. The same way we have got trigger dot is update, trigger dot is delete, trigger dot is undelete. All right. So we have these particular context variables in terms of the context variables which return whether the trigger got executed due to insert, update, delete, or undelete. All right. So anytime you want to check whether the trigger was due to an insert operation or update operation, you can use these context variables. Okay. Are you getting my voice? Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, because
I
I
can
saw a
hear you.
message from GoToMeeting saying that there is audio difficulty. Okay, that's fine. So concept is clear. So if the trigger got initiated because of an insert operation, this method will or this context variable will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So same way for all this. Then the same way I have trigger dot is before and I have a trigger dot is after. So let's quickly go and see how it can work. Uh, so for that, let me take a scenario. In our last session, we talked about opportunity amount, right? We have written a trigger for opportunity amount, I guess. Did we write for opportunity or we wrote it for account, right? Okay, fine. So let's talk about opportunity today. Let's say I have a logic that if amount of opportunity is greater than 1 million, throw error. Okay, let's say this is what I need to write. How will I write that? We'll go to the setup, customize opportunity triggers. click on new, give a name even before insert. Okay, and then I will write opportunity in trigger dot new if o dot amount is greater than 1 million, o dot add error to with opportunity. Trigger name is already used, so let's use another name, PP. Okay, so that's okay, right? So this trigger is going to work only for an insert operation, right? Now let's say if I have to execute this trigger on update operation also, then what do I do? I should write one more event here before update. Now this trigger will get executed on update operation as well, right? But in this case, what will happen? The same logic gets executed on both the events. Before insert, before update, same logic is getting executed, correct? If I want two different logics to work on these two different events, if it's an insert operation, then let's say amount should be less than 500,000. And if it's an update operation, then the amount can be up to 100,000. Okay. In that case, I will need the help of these context variables to check whether it's an insert or it's an update operation. Okay. So all that you have to do is you just have to put one more condition here. If trigger dot is insert and amount is greater than 500,000, throw error. Fine.
Jeet, could you repeat this?
So earlier I was just checking the amount. Now I am also checking if the trigger is insert trigger or not. That's what I've done. I just added one more logic here, or one more criteria here. That's it. And for update, I am writing else if trigger dot is update and o dot amount is greater than 1 million, then throw another. Got it? So now what is happening? If the trigger has got executed due to insert operation, then it will check if the amount is 500,000 or not. If it is more than 500,000, it's going to throw an error. But if the trigger has got executed due to an update operation and amount is more than 1 million, then it will throw an error. Got it? So this is how you can actually use these context variables: trigger dot is insert, trigger dot is update. These context variables can be used for checking, uh, you know, which operation did the trigger get executed from, and these can be used for putting these kind of these context variables can be used for putting these kind of logics. So if you want different set of logic to work for different set of different operation, DML operation, then you can use these context variables. Clear? Now let me save it. Go to opportunities. So if you try to create a new opportunity, it should have amount less than 500,000. But if you're trying to save an existing opportunity, the amount should be less than 1 million. Let's say now if I'm trying to create a new opportunity, I put a value of 700,000. Try to save this. See, it says too big of an opportunity because it's an insert operation which is happening. New record being created. Make it 400,000. Save. Got saved. Now, if you try to edit it, now if you make it 700,000, it will not have a problem because in the save operation we have told it that in the save up till 1 million is allowed. So 700,000 does not run away. So if you try to increase that more than a million, then it will run away. Here, let me know if you have any doubt or question here. So this is how you will use the context variables, and after that, with the context variables, you write your code, and then you just execute the trigger. That's it. Everyone is okay with it?
Give one question.
Hmm.
Can you please open that trigger maybe that?
Trigger, okay. Trigger code. Hmm.
Here, this context variable will yes. Here is this context variable will be irrespective of before or after event, right? Either it will be before or after, before insert and before update.
Yeah, is insert will
It
take care
will
of before insert and after insert both. Okay. If you just want to make sure that it is only for before, then you should say if this is trigger dot is before. Then this logic is very particular for a before insert, right? So if you are just talking about before insert, then you'll have to put both these logics, trigger dot is before and trigger dot is insert. Got it? But if you
yes.
just write is insert, then it will be for both before insert, after insert,
Yeah.
both the triggers will be.
Yeah.
Got it? So whichever,
Jeet,
just one second, whichever event we are gonna talk about, we will have to be specific about that particular event, right? So if we are talking about insert, update, if we are talking about before insert specifically, then it has to be written as trigger dot is insert and trigger dot is before. Now it means this criteria will check only the trigger if it's a before insert. Correct?
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Someone else had a question.
yes, Jeet, that's the reason we have mentioned as before insert in the trigger syntax itself, before insert and before update. Only
Mhm.
then only if that conditions has been satisfied, it will get into this for loop itself.
Mhm.
Is it so? Then what is the reason we are giving it as before, is before trigger dot is before into that if condition?
No, see, here you have mentioned two conditions, na? Before insert and before update.
Yes.
Fine. So the trigger can get executed for either of them, either one of them, right?
Mhm.
Now
Yes.
here I
Yes.
am trying to write two different logics for those two things. That's what we're doing. Here it is before insert,
Okay.
okay, but
Mhm.
you might have a trigger which you want to execute in after insert also, right? So if
Okay.
there is one more event, then you might need to write that first, okay? So if there are multiple
Okay.
events that you have mentioned and you want to perform different actions for different events, then these context variables will come into picture for you to understand whether the trigger was called due to insert or due to update and stuff like that.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
All right. Let me know any other questions or queries around trigger. We are good. Okay. So if you are okay with the trigger, we'll move on to other ways of invoking Apex, the asynchronous Apex. But before that, I think we should quickly talk about that custom button thing.
Ajit,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, but in what situation will we use is delete and is undelete?
If it's a delete trigger
So are we
situation, there
saying
is no situation. There are 7 events yesterday we talked about. Do you remember those events?
I mean before update, are you talking about that?
Yeah.
Before update,
What
before
all?
insert,
Yeah. What all events were there?
before update, before insert, before delete,
So before
bef
delete, right?
right?
So is delete will be used with before delete or after delete or whatever. And there was one trigger for undelete also, right? Event for
Right.
after undelete. So this will be used with that. So if that is the part, that is an event that calls your trigger, this will be used with that. Fine. So this is purely, these context variables are purely connected to the events that you're writing here. Okay, if you have
Okay.
multiple events, again, understand it very clearly. If you have multiple events which are calling the trigger and you want to perform different actions, okay, think about it. If the trigger is being called from different sources and you plan to do different action for different uh, event of the trigger based on the different event of the trigger, then only these context variables will make sense. Yes, correct. And if you
Right.
see, these all context variables are related to the events that we have. They're not different from the events that we have. They're related to all the 7 events, right? So that is it. So only in case I have trigger getting executed due to multiple events and I want to perform different action for different event, then these context variables will come into picture. So if it's being called from a delete event, then you can use trigger.isDelete. Is that clear?
So if I go and click on
Hmm.
I just have a follow-up question.
Hmm.
Now, if I go and click on delete button, is that when the trigger gets invoked? Is that how?
See, you won't click on delete button. That's not when the trigger gets evoked. You should have first of all written the trigger itself. Have you written the trigger for delete? With this before insert trigger, this will get executed only for an insert operation. It will not get executed for delete operation. Correct? So first of all, you need to
Right.
write a delete trigger, and after that, if you click on a delete button, if you have written a delete trigger for an object, and then you click on a delete button, yes, then the trigger will get invoked.
Okay. Okay.
So whichever event you want the trigger to get executed, first of all, we have to write the trigger with that particular event.
Right.
Now, my trigger here just has instruction to work on an insert and update. So this will not do anything for delete. If you want the trigger to work on delete, then you should write a trigger for delete. And then when you try to delete a record, not just from the delete button, from data loader also, then it will get executed.
Okay. Got you. Okay.
See?
See.
Okay.
Just only one small question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a any small scenario where we can understand the after insert and after event, after update, after insert?
After insert, okay. I'll give you a scenario. You guys can, go back and write and
Okay,
work on it. So after insert
sure.
can be okay. Now, as we saw yesterday and we were talking about it, after insert cannot update the same record. So if the trigger gets executed for a certain record, or the context trigger.new returns that record. After insert, you cannot go and update the same record.
Exactly.
It does not allow you to make changes on the same record. Let's say if you are writing an after trigger and the trigger gets called because of this record. So after the insert has happened or after the update has happened, the data has got committed to the database. You will not be able to make changes here. Okay, but you can actually go and edit some related record or not related record or whatever. So anything else, you can go and make changes anywhere in the database, just not on this particular record, right? Because this gets locked. The moment that insert or update has happened, this record gets locked. Okay. So let's say now let me put a scenario that if an opportunity is created with 1 million amount, go and update the account as category A account. So this should happen after insert of opportunity, right? The account should get updated after the opportunity got inserted. That's our situation. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
or let's say the moment an account is created, let's say, let me think about this. The moment one account is created, go and uh, create
Create
one
a contact.
opportunity. Create a contact or maybe create one opportunity also along with that. Okay. So that's again, what we are doing. We are basically updating some other data. We are creating some other data, but we are not actually doing any changes on the same record which called the trigger, because you cannot do that, gets locked. Okay.
Yes.
So your before triggers will be used for validating and all that kind of stuff. So anything that you have to check whether this amount is equal to this, or any updates that you have to do, that should be done before this thing. Okay, like in before, let's say I am throwing an error here. Instead of throwing error, if I want to update a field based on the amount, we can say if o dot amount is greater than 100,000, update o dot um, let's say stage name, make it qualification. You can have that logic also. It's not always that you will use trigger for throwing error and all. Right. So what I'm doing, I'm checking the amount, and based on that I'm updating this. Right. So this kind of thing can also happen, but this should also happen in a before trigger, before insert, before update. After insert or after update will not be able to make these changes. Okay, and after trigger will not be able to, because that is getting executed after the record has got saved. So it will not be able to make changes here because the record gets locked. The record which caught the trigger, that gets locked. So anything, this kind of thing where you have to validate or where you have to uh, update any field on that particular record should be called from the before triggers. Any scenario where you have to update some other object or other record, that should be after trigger. If you have scenario like this, if opportunity amount is greater than a million, mark the account as um, category A account. Let's say you have a field called category in account. So this kind of thing will come after insert, because this should happen only once the opportunity has got created. Okay, or if account is created, create an opportunity along with it. This should be after trigger. So this should get executed on account, and once the account is inserted or updated, opportunity should get created. This kind of thing. Here, now we are okay on the after and the before trigger, and we understand the difference between that also. That's a good question actually, because I see a lot of times people getting confused on the before insert, before trigger and after trigger. So it's pretty simple. Any changes to be made on the same record which is calling the trigger has to be before. Any trigger which needs to make changes on, which need to perform some operation or make some changes on any other thing apart from that particular record should be after. Keep it that simple. Right. So if you guys want, you can work on these two scenarios right after triggers for this. This one, the second scenario, just a quick question for you all. The second scenario which I'm writing here, if account is created, create an opportunity along with it. What event this trigger should be called? What should the event?
It should be trigger dot is insert, means context variable would be is insert,
Now,
and
why do I need
event
context variable? First of all, though, see again, I'm
okay,
making mistake.
event.
Context variable is not a must. Only
Okay,
in case you have multiple events and you want different actions for different events, then context variable comes, right? So first is think
okay.
about the event. What event? What should be the event? This is the scenario which has been given. The moment an account is created, an opportunity along with it should be created. Okay. What will be the uh,
Event.
what will the event for it? Before insert, before update, after insert, after update. What event? What trigger event
Be
should
after
follow?
in,
It's after insert.
after
After
insert.
insert.
After insert? Sure,
Yes.
Yes.
only after insert and not after update. This should work after insert, right? Shall I put it after update also? What will be the problem if I put after update event also there?
Because the scenario is account is created, not about updated.
Yeah,
So why we go for after update?
yes. So this way you have to understand, analyze, right? So you will never get requirement, your client will never come to you and tell you that, "Acha, I need an after insert trigger." Yeah, whatever is mentioned from there we'll have to analyze. Like now you made it out from the scenario that okay, it needs to be done when it's created, right? And moreover, the problem with after update will be if you put it on after update, every time someone updates the record, one opportunity will get created. That's what we do not want, right? So this is how you'll have to understand that what exactly the requirement is, and you'll have to write the trigger that way. Clear?
Jeet,
Yep.
now in which object are we writing this trigger? Are we writing it in
Account.
accounts
Yeah.
object?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's getting executed from account. Now, when account is getting created, so account is calling that trigger, right? Okay.
But
So,
see, here we need to have one variable for opportunity too, just to create.
so variable for opportunity is not a difficult thing for you, no? You can just create an opportunity for equals new opportunity. That's what you have to do,
Okay.
right? And after that, you will have to
Okay.
assign some values and finally insert over. That's what you have to do, correct?
Uh,
Okay. So that's about the triggers. Now there are other ways of invoking Apex which we call asynchronous Apex. I'll start talking about asynchronous Apex in tomorrow's session because today we do not have that much of a time. So let's quickly get into the custom button thing. Okay. Let's talk about the custom button, which I think on the visual force session we left on that part. We said that we'll do it next session. But last session we started with trigger and all. So custom button is a very simple option. So the scenario is on the detail page. If you want a button which can take you to the Visual Force page, you can create a custom button for it. Okay. On the detail page of the record. Just to quickly, get you onto the context, we saw that we can override the existing standard page, we can embed the standard page, we can embed the Visual Force into the standard page, and then we saw that we can override, right? There are two options that we saw. Now, in case I want to have a button instead of embedding or instead of overriding, I just want to provide a button on the standard page which can take me to the Visual Force page for the same record. Then I will create a custom button. So let's say V3 is the page number, the page name, right? So I just go to setup, customize account, and there is this option called button links and actions. And here you have to create a new button or link. Okay, so this time I'm not overriding, I'm creating a new button. This is a custom button that I'm creating. Name it whatever you want. It's going to be a detail page button, which means it will take me to the detail page of the record. Source will be a Visual Force page, and select the page number here, V3. That's it. Fine. So I'm creating a button. The source for that button is Visual Force page, the content source, which means it will take me to V3. That's it. Done. The custom button has got created. So I have created a custom button called Visual Force page, okay, which will take me to V3. V3 is the source for it. Now this button you can put on the detail page of your account record. How will you do that? That will be done from the page layout. Go to the page layout, click on edit. Okay. So here if you see in the buttons, you have this Visual Force page option. This is the button that we created, custom button. You can drag and put it here in the custom button section. That's it. So now there is a custom button called Visual Force which has got created. Let me save it and see how it works. Okay, now go to an account record. Any of the record. See, now this custom button is there. If you click on this, this will take you to the Visual Force page view. Okay. The record opens as a Visual Force page, right? So you're on any record. If you want to have a quick look onto the Visual Force page view of it, you can do this, right? So this is one more way of calling a Visual Force page from the custom button. Got it? So if you want that your end users might want to have the standard page first, and they should have an option of clicking on a button and then going into the custom page, then you need to have this custom button here in place. Clear? Let me know if there is any doubt or question here with the custom button thing. Are we okay with the custom button? Right? Okay. So that's about the custom button. Now the next topic that we're gonna start discussing, which we will start talking into tomorrow's session, is asynchronous epics. Just to give you a brief of asynchronous epics, this is an epics code which gets executed in the backend, and it is not in sync with the end user actions. So far, whatever epics we have written, they are in complete sync with the uh, they are in sync with some other operation happen, right? Button click, page load. The moment the button is clicked, Apex executes instantly. The moment page loads, Apex executes instantly. The moment record is being saved, the Apex gets executed. So that's what we have done so far. Okay, this is all synchronous Apex. Sometimes you want your code to get executed asynchronously. Asynchronously means not in sync with these kind of events. It should automatically get executed in backend. Okay. Now, you will say, why would I need that? You will need that because sometimes your operations are very long running operations, okay, and they might not get executed instantly. So that sort of operation you might want them to get executed asynchronously. Whenever resources become available, it should keep on happening in the backend. Sometimes you have a requirement to execute some Apex code frequently, every week, every month, and you just want to define a frequency and you want the code to automatically execute. So no one is gonna start or initiate the code every week. That's it. Okay, that's where you need asynchronous Apex. Correct? So um, the good thing about asynchronous Apex is that even if it cannot get executed, it gets queued in the Apex queue and it waits for the resources to become available, right? So now or later, the asynchronous Apex gets executed. Okay, if now the resources are not available, it will get executed later on after some time when the resources become available. The problem with synchronous Apex is either it gets executed or it gets either it gets executed or it doesn't get executed, right? If it does not find the resources available, it gets aborted. That's it, right? So that's something which does not happen with asynchronous Apex. Even if the resources are not available, it will wait for its for the resources to become available so that it can get executed. Correct? So we are going to talk in details about the asynchronous Apex in tomorrow's session. There are different types of asynchronous Apex that we will discuss. All right. So,
Chief,
yep.
can you just show that custom button code?
Code
Yes. The
custom
changes
button
which
did
you have
not have
done.
any code.
The visual source page it's been created, custom button.
Source.
Be-
Here it is.
Okay.